Okay, let's talk about behavior and rehearsals in behavior. Now, if I decide tomorrow I want to go be an EMT, I am not going out into the field, and even though I've got some basic medical knowledge, just going to be thrown to doing it and then asked to train in the field. It's not realistic. Someone could get hurt, or heaven forbid, I could get hurt because, it's one of those things that kind of needs some training to do. So need some coping skills to learn what to do when you get into that excited state, how to handle yourself when things get excited. You're not going to just go out and do it just because your buddy says, we're going to go be EMTs today. Same thing with dog training. There are times that you are not going to understand why trainers are going to look at you and say, we're not going to actually take your dog on a walk today, even though your issue is leash work. Or we're not going to take your dog to greet people, even though your dog doesn't know how to greet people because your dog jumps on people. Because it doesn't work that way. Your dogs have to have the skills to control themselves in order to do that. They have to know how to do being able to sit perfectly. And everybody's always like, oh, my dog knows how to sit. Well, your dog knows how to sit when there's no triggers involved. When they're not in an excited mindset, when they're not anxious, when they're not upset, when they're not scared. Your dog does not comprehend sit means keep my butt there until mom or dad say otherwise. A big complaint I hear is people are like, well, my dog's scared or my dog's aggressive and we need to get it fixed. And I refer them to a behavior vet, and the behavior vet puts them on medication, and they think immediately within, like 10 days to 2 weeks that their dog's going to be better. Behavior medications, probiotics, pills for like puppy Prozac, the fluoxetine, amitriptyline, stuff like that, take time. Trazodone is situational, it's instant, but despite that, I'm not going to ask your dog to cope with a new stressor when they just start meds. There's times that I am going to have you do things with your dog that do not involve me. It's just you and me on a video doing things. This goes for regular in-person clients. Despite COVID, despite everything else, there were times before all of this, I would not go to clients' houses because their dog was too overstimulated by my presence. I would not go to clients' houses because their dog was too fearful and the medication hasn't had time to take effect. I have to teach you skills for your dog without the added stress of me. If your dog is terrified of new people, despite what happens, if I come and I throw treats every time I'm there, they are not going to make a lot of progress if the medication hasn't had a lot of time to work. They're still going to get in that overexcited state. They're still going to be in that fearful state, and the progress is going to be hindered because they're still going to have that fear response to me that's exaggerated. They're still going to have that excitement response that's exaggerated. It's like teaching a kid how to swim. Little kids, we give them floaties, teach them to be comfortable with water, teach them that, water's cool, but they need to trust us and look to us. If I don't teach that to you for you to use with your dog's not going to trust you. I'm going to tell you at times to do not take your dog on a walk, because every time your dog sees the trigger, every time the dog rehearses the pattern of pulling, you're not doing your dog any favors. You're not doing yourself any favors. You are making things worse. And I always hear, but what if my dog needs to walk or exercise in order for me to sleep? Train them. Brain games. It's not about physically wearing your dog out. If you want to train your dog for a marathon, by all means, train your dog for a marathon. But please don't complain when your dog doesn't calm down and your dog starts becoming more and more apt to physical exercise, more able to tolerate these things. It's a matter of teaching your dog to wind down. That when a trigger happens, good things happen and calm behaviors are rewarded. If they rehearse losing their mind and jumping on people every time people come over, and you don't stop them from greeting people, you're not helping your dog. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping the people that come over because they're going to be aggravated because your dog's jumping. Now, if you put a barrier up and you keep them from greeting people that are coming over and prevent them from jumping, prevent them from losing their minds, you're helping them because you're setting a precedence. The only way we get a greet is if we're calm. If you let them drag you down the road, you teach them that pulling works. If we change that to the only way we're going anywhere is if I'm not pulling, and you teaching your dog attention and teaching your dog how to respond to you and pay attention to you, and to check in with you, you're changing the dog's thought process. And that doesn't happen by throwing your dog on a leash and taking them for a walk. That happens with lots of little things that happen before you get to the point of actually putting the leash and taking your dog on a walk. I spend time with some people where I go in and I just hand them the paperwork. I show them what to do, and this is what you're going to do, and then I go home. And it's not something that feasibly I need to do. I should be able to show you how to do this online. I show you with your dog, show you with my dog. I do the behavior with my dog. I have people here who can set up a trigger, because realistically, there's times you can schedule an appointment with me, and unless you have somebody that is going to go up and down the road for you while we're doing the appointment, you may not encounter a trigger. So I need to teach you these things so that when you do have a trigger, you can set up to be aware of a threshold, to be aware of what is going on. I don't work in make your dog sink or swim. I do not ask you to throw your dog in the deep end of the pool and swim. It will never happen. The reason I do things the way they are is because you have to teach your dog to respond to you first and foremost. If you can't do that, then you're not going to get anywhere with training your dog. It's not about doing things the way that you think they should be done. It's the way dogs' brains function. Coping skills have to be taught for them to handle emotions, so that when, hey, I decide I want to go be an EMT and somebody has a heart attack in front of me, or I respond to a stroke call, muscle memory happens and I just go through the motions and I save the person's life. Not me panic and not able to comprehend and learn in the moment because I'm overexcited or I'm scared. Same thing with dogs. I've done this for a lot of years. I love what I do. But realistically, asking your dog to do a thing before they're mentally and physically ready, it's doing them a disservice. It's doing you a disservice. It's making things longer, and it's making it harder on you. We are a society of instant gratification, and in behavior, when you have overexcitement, when you have fear, instant gratification does not happen. You cannot just hit a button and make it happen because you want it to happen. You have to move in baby steps. Remember that. A lot of the dogs I work in, they're overexcited, they're fearful, they're reactive, they're frustrated. Until they learn to handle those emotions, they're not getting anywhere. And it's not fair for you to ask them to, because all you're going to want to do is ask them to do the behavior, and they're going to fail, and then you're going to correct them, and you're just going to suppress them, and it's going to become a vicious cycle, and the dog's going to keep getting more and more and more excited, more and more and more frustrated, more and more and more fearful. It's not something that you can change overnight. I get clients with dogs that lose their minds when they see other dogs, they see other people. That's not a fast fix. I don't pretend to have a magic wand that I can wave and change things for these dogs. I have to teach them coping skills. I have to teach you coping skills. And the only way to do that is a step at a time. It's a long process, but it's worth it. Peace out and happy training.